Hello and welcome to the KSW Painting Euro V8 Supercar series, and we are here at Summit Point live on Apex Racing TV. I'm Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me is Marco Barbanet with Sam Kume on the cameras. And Marco, this circuit doesn't get a whole lot of love necessarily from these types of cars, but in this super sprint format, 3 short races tonight, we could see some fantastic action out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello everyone, and it's one of the classic iRacing tracks. Everybody knows it, but it's still very tricky, not very long, and like you said, with this super sprint format, I think we are in for a cracker, Sam. Not a lot of space to go, the track is bumpy. If you go on the outside of the racing line, you get obviously on the grass, but in many points around the track, you will see there are no barriers stopping you from ending up in the forest. So, and that of course would be a big problem. Or you see, like right now on the side of the road, you had either tires on one side or a big slope on the other side, and that can cause, of course, massive damage to your car. You get massive hang time, the car flies in the air, lands very badly, and you can really end up your race quickly. So these 3 races tonight are going to put the championship contenders and all the other drivers on the spot, because they know they have to be clean and they have to get as many points as possible from the 3 races tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. In the championship, Jamie Mcknight, in terms of pure points, is leading the way. He's 5 points ahead of Johnny Brandon. Nicole Foggy, who unfortunately doesn't seem to be here today. Of course, we've also got, I'm not sure what other events. I think there is another event going on today, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, Nicole Foggy unfortunately isn't here today. Tony Klusman is around, he's in 4th in the championship with Chris Jackson 5th. Michael Cracknell, unfortunately, he's had to pull out of the championship due to other commitments. So he seems to be out of it as well. In the club championship, Richard Warmingham still leading the way. It's not clear of Anthony Woodward, though, only 70 points between the two of them, with Clyde Whiting, who unfortunately is also away. He's at Brands Hatch today, so yeah, hopefully Clyde is having a good time. And I imagine if he's not watching this live, he will be watching it on repeat. And of course, in the live standings as well, I imagine that you can't get those scores, but those are the ones that properly count. And Johnny Brandon is just about leading the way, but it's ever so close, Marco. And at Road America, I think pretty much summed up the championship, for me at least. Jamie Mcknight was not the fastest driver. He was probably the 5th or 6th fastest driver. He came away from the meeting with the most amount of points, and I think that pretty much sums up how he's just got every scrap that he can attain this season.
I mean, unpredictability is the key in this championship. It's very tough. We see in other series we have reverse grids as well, and in those championships usually you see, even in the reverse grids, the top drivers have the time. If they are able to come out without damage from the beginning of the race, they are able to get back to the front. This happens here, but not always, because the performance level is quite similar, especially between the top guys of the series, because there is not 1-2 guys that can win races, but I think around 5-6 drivers every time they go on the track are able to win the race, and they have the pace to do so. So anything can happen in any meeting. Of course, tonight, Sam, is going to be particular, because 3 short races, like we said. The track is not very long, so you have to use your racecraft at the most that you can. I mean, you have to avoid contact, you have to be clean, and you have to keep yourself focused and try to get as many points as possible. Like I said, it's not going to be easy for these guys. Luckily, we are using the full course and not the short course, because that would have been even more chaotic. But that first corner in the short course is so terrible. It's good that we use the long one, which basically 1 corner more. The first corner is a little bit down the road.
Yeah, I think it's certainly the practical means to go by this. So it's still going to be extremely difficult to overtake. You can see, just going into turn 1, it's very narrow, and if you just position your car on the inside, especially in these cars where, you know, the brakes are not the best in terms of, you know, the power ratio, It's going to be very difficult to force your way around the outside, so we could see a few surprise winners. And in this format, we do always see 3 different winners. Personally, I think I've done 4 of these Super Sprint events, and never have I seen a driver score 2 wins on a single night. So expect that to happen today. The drivers just completing their qualifying lap times right now, about 15 seconds to go. And yeah, of course, Tony Kliesmann in 2nd place, Johnny Brandon in 1st place currently, Marco. It's this around that, we always go on about it, but Tony Kliesmann is a driver who can still win the championship, but it's ebbing away from him after every round that he doesn't make up points. He really does need a good round today to really get back into the championship.
Yes, he needs a good. I mean, maybe this time for real. This is the last call for him. He needs to have a good round. Hopefully, bring home a win and some good points in the other races, because otherwise it would be game over for him.
Yeah, and he hasn't had a fantastic couple of rounds, but so too has Johnny Brandon struggled. He's, yeah, of course, had a bit of an incident at Phillip Island and a collision with Tony Kliesmann at Road America, costing him crucial points. Kliesmann just comes across the line to complete his lap now, and just got one more driver, I think, just behind him, just playing in a lap. That was Alex Masse, just crossing the line. And I think that should pretty much be it. Just got the timer to tick down until Alex comes back to the pits. But yeah, it's going to be a crucial qualifying this, Marco. Like I said, it's difficult to overtake. And whilst, of course, races 2 and 3 are going to be reverse grids, it's still good to get that first race under your belt.
Yes, absolutely, because race 1, of course, we have to remember, is a random reverse. Race 2 is a full reverse. So it's very, very likely that you are going, if you are one of the fast drivers, you're going to start at the back, both race 2 and race 3. So race 1 for the fast guys is very, very important.
We are just waiting for Alex up there. He's getting a bit of camera time, though, to be fair. And this isn't a properly timed lap, but as the time just ticks down to 0, he will vanish spontaneously. There you go. And we can now go through the grid. So it's Johnny Brandon on pole position. Alongside him on the front row is Tony Kliesmann. On the second row, Chris Jackson with 2nd in the championship. Jamie Mcknight starting in 4th. AM Championship leader Richard Wong starts in 5th, with Tor Anders Verven in 6th. There's Gary Croft, Anthony Woodward, Katie Rose Tavante having a good qualifying in 9th. Then it's Nikolai Bogotayev, Ole Christian Unberg in 11th, Erling Boehmer in 12th. Then it's Samuel Buzan, Dominic Sori, Michael Frost, Alex Masse, Brenton O'Brien, and Sergei Glazkov rounding out this 18-car field. And as the drivers just line up on the grid, what can we expect from this opening race, Marco?
I'm expecting a good run from Brandon and Klusterman. Hopefully they don't get into trouble with each other. And my pick for this race, if I don't have to pick guys from the first row, would be Jamie Mcknight in P4.
Wow. So it's a bold claim, Marco. Let's see if you are correct. On the second row of the grid, Tony Kliesmann characteristically taking one. Also Alex Masse. I'm going to put him on the spot here. And yeah, he doesn't know how much fuel. Apparently he does now know how much fuel to put into his car, which is always useful when you're about to race. He starts from 16th on the grid for this one. Just got Gary Croft and Alex Masse now to get onto the grid. And we will be away here at Summit Point. And now all the cars are set on this grid. So, Johnny Brandon from the pole position. And away we go. It's a very good start from Brandon. Kliesmann might lose out to his own teammate here going into turn 1. But Brandon pulling away out in the lead on the inside into turn 1. But who's going to win out of the Never Quit Racing drivers? It's going to be Kliesmann round the outside. He's going to consolidate that position. Mcknight's a little bit wide, and he might lose a position here to warming up, but he should just get a good run out, and he holds on to that place. towards Anders Griven, just fighting behind as well. They're side by side going into turn 2. And actually, Bourbon has already lost 2 positions as they all just sort themselves out. Are there going to be any collisions here down into turns 3 and 4? It's such a dangerous position, and Alex Masse has found that out as he goes spinning onto the grass.
He was very lucky to not end up in the wall there, but he also, I think, made a little bit of contact with Glaskov. Very, very good start from all the drivers, avoiding trouble there. And now Brandon Klusterman, Jackson Mcknight are still first through fourth, and Wormingham and Croft right behind them as we finish the first lap.
Good start for Johnny Brandon, as you say. Hasn't got a fantastic lead though over Tony Klusterman, but you just feel as though overtaking around this circuit when you've got such quick and experienced drivers in the form of Johnny Brandon and Tony Klusterman, it's gonna be so difficult. But Klusterman will not give up. Difficult traction zone seemingly coming out of that turn 1, and he is staying really close. What can he do here, Marco? Because Brandon, like I said, he's a very experienced driver. He knows where to defend. His racecraft, as we've seen this past couple of seasons, has been absolutely superb. Is there any place on this circuit where Tony Klusterman can maybe force an overtake?
The 2 best passing opportunities are right here, and of course turn 1. In order to pass here at the hairpin, you really need to get a good run coming out of that fast right-hander. It's not easy, but then in the first corner, of course, you need a good exit from the final corner, and to do that, you really need to sacrifice the exit from the final corner, go very, very wide, almost into the sand, as you see this great battle here, Buzin, Bogatyrov, Soare, and O'Brien battling together. If you see on the final corner, there's on the left side a little bit of runoff area, and I have to be honest, to be quick here, you have to go a little bit on the sand there, which will cost you a 1x, but still, it is the best way possible to get a good run coming out of the final corner.
Yeah, there's no limit in terms of incidences. Incidents? Oh dear. Oh, here we go, going into turn 1. That's, is that Guy Croft just gaining a couple of positions. Brenton O'Brien, apologies, just gaining a couple of positions. Actually, the ASEA Racing driver of Dominic Sorry just jumping a couple of places as they go spinning round. And Brenton O'Brien, from gaining a position, is spun round at turn 2. Still going on just ahead though. Still Buzan and Sorry getting involved with the other drivers. But here was the instant marker.
I think there was a fair bit of contact, but you see there, O'Brien lost the car, and that, of course, caught Soare a little bit. I mean, it's not his fault, I think, because it's not easy to have good reaction times, especially with this car. O'Brien made a great save, but he slowed down so much, and that was caused the collision, of course. Unfortunate mistake there, and O'Brien has to start from is charged back from P17 right now, as we see Croft defending from Woodward in the first corner. I think it was Anneberg, one of the guys in the back, in P15. Yes, because he is losing positions. Team Vikings driver on the final corner. Oh, you know, it's not easy for these guys. I've seen a lot of drivers sideways in that final corner tonight. So that could be a problem going throughout the race, especially for race 2, which is going to be contested in afternoon time setting, so the track will be a lot warmer than this early morning race here.
Yeah, it's still 34 degrees though, the track temperature, so it's not exactly cool. But yeah, like you said, Marco, it's only going to get worse most likely for races 2 and maybe not 3. That'll be late afternoon. But still, Klusterman staying close. He's within half a second still. We've also got this, well, I say it's a battle. It's not that close. There is a bit of a battle just behind there. Gary Croft and Anthony Woodward getting very close. Woodward was very close coming out of, or going into the final corner. Just got a bit of a scuffy exit, and you can see he's lost time all the way down that pit straight. And yeah, we can pretty much see the entire field just behind them as well. And Erling Boehmer up 4 positions from his start. He's absolutely flying along currently. I think he's also a Team Vikings driver as Erling. And yeah, closing in on these 2 drivers ahead. And he'll just be, licking his lips, I think, Marco. He'll be absolutely loving these two getting very close and almost making contact a couple of times in this past couple of laps.
Yes, this track really invites you to make a dive, especially in the two corners I was talking about before, the hairpin and turn one. But it's so bumpy, and the curves really unsettle the car because they are very, very high, especially in some points. So and there is no concrete runoff whatsoever on this track. It's all either gravel or grass, so it's very easy to lose control. You see this final corner bouncing on that inside curve. You see running a bit sideways there is Woodward coming out of the corner, as in front of him Croft disappeared for a bit.
Yeah, Woodward didn't quite get that run out of that corner, did he?
Yeah, yes, because you see, when you're fighting the wheel, of course, and you're fighting the car, it's very tough to get a good exit out of the final corner. And like I said, if you want to go down for a move into turn one, you really need to get a good exit from that final corner. In all the cars, in iRacing, of course, when I talk about road racing, I always, look at that, Soirée and Masse battling together. Like, I always compare my, the only road car I can drive is the Skippy, and even in the low power Skippy, you need to have good exit from the final corner if you wanted to get a good move down into turn one. And you see some damage to the back end of the Team Isia car there. You see right there on the Isia logo and the Holden logo as well. With the Masse had a good debut round in Phillip Island, not so good round in Road America, so I'm expecting good things from him. Made that mistake in the beginning at the first lap, but he's been able to save the car, and now he's trying to get some valuable points for his championship.
Yeah, he'll be hoping for a pretty large reverse for race 2, because you look up and down the field, all these guys are capable of winning a race today. And here comes Alex Masse now on Dominic Soy. He goes to the inside, Soy not defending too much. Masse a lot later on the brakes. Can he get it stopped? Just about. Dominic Soy might be able to come back though as we get the power down. Soy just a little bit cautious though. Didn't seem to get too much wheel spin there, but just did not accelerate as fast as his rival. And drops down into 13th place now. Alex Masse up into 12th. He has got 6 seconds to catch up to Nikolai Bogotayev though, so that's going to take a while, and I doubt he's going to do it in this race, but he's at least giving himself a better chance of getting involved in that random reverse grid for race 2. This battle boiling up as well. Samuel Buzan up 3 positions from his start, and he's right ahead of Nikolai Bogotayev. He's trying to get back into that top 10, and it's a decent run from Bogotayev here, and I don't know if we could just go on board for a second, see how close he can get into turn 1. Will he go for a dive? You can see that slipstream effect just not really helping him down that straight. We see that a lot in this car, Marco. Well, whilst a lot of cars in iRacing are, maybe the slipstream is too strong, in this car, around this circuit, that they're going to get barely any help.
Yes, and there has been talk in the forums about many of the cars getting a little bit of a reduction in slipstream effectiveness. Even the NASCAR tracks, there has been talk about reduced draft, and I can say that I feel like it is true. Maybe more closer to real life. Who knows? I have never been there, I don't know about you. But from what they say, for example, the MX-5 has a very, very good draft model. But
yeah, you can say that.
It's a very, very tough thing to get right in a simulator. The calculations are crazy expensive in terms of CPU. So I think what we have is good, but you are right. In the V8s, is extremely tough to get a good run when you are behind an opponent. You don't get that extra boost needed, I think. As you can see, a little bit of smoke there in front of these guys, but I think it's only a lock-up. And Bogotayev still isn't able to make the move on Buzin, despite using that Ford power that we all love and like here in Apex Racing TV.
Yes, and I think that lock-up must have been from Anthony Woodward, because he was ever so close to to Gary Croft just ahead of him. And then, yeah, just seemed to drop off a little bit. I've just went a little bit wide there. But, yeah, Croft, he's doing a good job currently, doing everything he needs just to hang on to that 6th place, 1 position higher than where he started. And, yeah, despite falling a little bit away from Richard Warm, he's not miles behind by any means. He's not much slower whatsoever. But he's just seemingly got enough to keep ahead. But this could turn into a potentially a 6-car chain by the end of this race. Because, yeah, Bourbon is now closing in on these guys as well. You can see him just trying to make this a 4-way chain for now. Anthony Woodward gets within about 0.4 of a second down into turn 1. But here's another battle. Nikolai Bogotyrev sees his opportunity to get back into the top 10. And Bogotyrev will go down the inside here. The Asiya racing driver trying to stay around the outside there. But can Bogotyrev get a better run? No, he can't. And he might not be able to make this move stick right now. Samuel Buzan resisting this attack. And he's got the inside for turn 2. That's the much better line, but Bogotyrev not giving up. And he's going to go around the outside here. And that's a fantastic move from Bogotyrev. And he should just be able to make this one stick now, unless Buzan is super confident round the outside. He might still make this one. On the inside, he goes for this one. It turns into the outside for the next. And Bogotyrev, fantastic move there, Mark. That's how it's done.
Fantastic racing from these guys, and you see Bogotyrev to make a pass at basically to use half of a lap. So even when you have a good run, it's not, you know, the nature of the track. The first corners are right, left, right, left. So one car or the other is always going to have the inside. Makes it extremely tough. Great pass, great racing between the two, and great courtesy, I think, shown by the 2 drivers. Racing hard, but really, really fair. And that's what this series is all about. So you can see now Alex Masse coming into the first corner. And yeah, that gravel, that grass is like a big magnet on your car. When you go there, it's impossible to keep the car on the track. He was actually able to go back across the track, but then he ended up on the other side, always on the grass. So P14 now for the Spanish driver.
Yeah, must be getting a little bit frustrated, must Alex Masse, because he feels as though he's he should be a lot further up. But just a couple of mistakes so far. He's trying to go around the outside there. There was a little bit of room on the inside, but you know that's anyone who's done rookie masters around this circuit will know that is not the best corner to overtake round. And seemingly Uber just struggling a little bit.
Oh, Croft, I think he has a problem. Oh yeah, big problem for Croft. Like that cliff on the side of the track. When your car ends up there, it's big problem. You see, trying to save the car. I think he was also helped a little bit, judging by that. And he's beached. You get beached when you go there.
Wow,
look at that.
Tire. Wow. Well, I haven't seen that before. That is extremely unlucky. First the slide and then the tap.
Well, yeah.
Anthony Woodward, but of course he had no control over that, and he could not even try to do that, and that is real bad luck for Gary Croft. Hopefully he'll still finish within 2 laps of the leader, so he'll be eligible for the random reverse grid. But yeah, lots of luck for him.
Yes, nothing his opponent could do there. Woodward, of course, just like the crash we had in the beginning. Also with I think it was the crash with O'Brien in the beginning. There is no time to react there. Very bad luck there on the tire, just like our friend Alex Simpson in Sonoma in the BSRTC a couple of weeks ago. You end up on the tires and there's no way to pull the car down. You have to go back to the pits. It's very unfortunate. Like, yeah, what are the odds, or what are the odds of finishing your race stuck upon a tire stack? I mean, come on.
Need tire model, please, but yeah, different way. Yeah, Anthony Woodward lost out actually to Erling Boehmer in that little instance, so he must just got like a poor run. I don't know if we could try to find the replay of that, because yeah, Woodward was the one who made contact with Croft. Must have just got maybe on the brakes, lost a bit of momentum, and yeah, had to fall behind Erling Boehmer in the end. He's now 6 positions from his start, so well done to him. And here it was, yeah, just had all his momentum lost, did Anthony Woodward, and Erling Boehmer was just, yes, I will happily have a couple of positions right there and then.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't have also a little bit of damage. It wasn't that hard, but it was a very unfortunate angle. Sometimes when you hit like in that way, you can get damage to your suspensions or your tires. Seems to be good. Let's see from the onboard of Anthony. Fighting with the car as always. Seems to be straight, so that's good. So it must be, I think, only cosmetic damage for Anthony in that crash. As Sam, we are talking and 3 laps away from the end of the race. So this race went by quickly as Bazin is trying to get it, trying to defend from Bogatayrev in that first corner. Once again, Bogatayrev having to deal with an Isia car, and once again side by side.
Yeah, Bogatayrev around the outside. He likes this this little tactic. Around the outside goes Nikolai Bogatayrev, and I think, yeah, he holds on to that position then. So Bogatayrev, after making that move earlier on, he he's having to defend at the moment, and looking and say he's going to come away with the 9th position after Gary Cross incident. Apart from that, the only other major battle, of course, we've got that little 3-way battle just ahead. We've also got Michael Frost versus Sergei Glazkov. Haven't seen any of Glazkov, I think, so far today. He's in 14th position.
Here he is.
And, trying to put a little bit of pressure on Michael Frost, but at the moment, doesn't look as though he's going to make a move in time because, like you said, Marco, this race is absolutely flown by. These aren't exactly long races. 17 laps around a very short circuit like this. We've got 2 more of these, thankfully, but Sergei Glazkov, how can he get a good exit here? And he can. Right on the tail now, 0.2 of a second behind Michael Frost. Frost, will he go defensive into turn 1? He thought about it, but in the end has given his opponent the inside line. Can Glazkov get it stopped? He might just be able to, not quite. It was a good effort, Marco. He didn't really need to be that late on the brakes, and neither did Michael Frost need to be that early on the throttle, and it's lost him that position in the end.
And Alex Masse is coming. Very, very brave move there by Masse, putting his nose on the inside of his opponent's car. They are extremely close here. I think Masse will go for a move on the inside. He gives him a bit of a bump, but then Frost goes for a move on glass, and they touch. Oh man, that was unfortunate. Great racing, a little bit too much contact. There's that's Frost going extremely slow.
I don't know how Frost managed to spin round there, because he made a little bit of contact with the other driver, and I think he just lost it by himself. Yeah, he did. Just got on the grass.
Yeah.
And round he went, and I think that's quite maybe a little bit of damage, because he seemed to be going very slowly there, did Michael Frost.
Yeah, let's get a replay from the onboard of Michael Frost here. Little bit of contact there, and then that's unfortunate. Straight into the tire barrier, and that will deal you a great deal of damage. Frost going in for his pit stop, trying to stay at least 1 lap down. So, pretty entertaining race, Sam. The top 4 or 5, I think they are in the same order as they started, and I can guarantee you it's not going to be the same in race 2 and race 3.
Yes, like I said earlier on, I've never seen as one driver win 2 races on the same night in this organised races. And so the Super Sprints always provide 3 different winners, and hopefully we'll be able to see that today. No offense, of course, to Johnny Brown, because he has driven absolutely superbly so far. 1.9 seconds ahead of Tony Klusman, who I think, as this race has gone on, has just maybe lost a little bit of his motive. Because you can't realise that overtaking around this circuit is extremely difficult. His Never Quit Racing teammate Chris Jackson in 3rd position, who's been able to keep up. Jamie Mcknight has not been able to do that, unfortunately, in this first race. Still got a little bit side by side just behind there, but Jamie Mcknight, really struggling to keep up with these guys. But out in the lead, Johnny Brandon, he's going around the final corner, and he's going to take race 1 here at Summit Point. And that was a textbook drive there from Johnny Brandon. From pole position to the race 1 win. It's not all over for today. He's got a couple more races where he needs to drive very well. But for now, that championship lead coming right back into his hands.
Yeah, good win for Brandon. Klusterman and Jackson following closely behind, but they were not able to make any move on Johnny, who drove the perfect race from start to finish. And you see all the guys crossing the start-finish line right behind him. Duzin, Bogatayrev round up the top 10. And of course now all that these drivers are waiting is that reverse wheel and know what's going to happen to them. Of course they already know that race 3 will be a full reverse, but let's see if luck will determine the starting grid of race 2 in favor of the leaders or in favor of the back markers. Always an interesting moment. As Katie Rostaranto crosses the finish line right now, okay, and it's very deceiving because the start finish is very down the straight. It's not close to the exit, it's closer to the end of the straight, and that's the first race of tonight's meeting, and I think we will have the result on screen in just a few seconds.
Yes, move on to race 2 and race 3, I think, but for now, Johnny Brandon taking the race victory in race 1. In the end, 1.6 seconds clear of Tony Klusterman. He pushed him hard, but it just didn't quite have the overspeed to go for a move. Chris Jackson was very close, seemingly just as quick as those top 2. Hopefully, we'll see him maybe claim his second race win of the season. Jeremy Mcknight finished in 4th, but seemingly a little bit off the pace today. Richard Warrior nearly 20 seconds back in 5th. He actually dropped into the clutches of Erling Boehmer by the end of that race. He had a fantastic drive from 12th on the grid. Anthony Woodward finished in 7th, with Tor Anders Bourbon, after a little bit of a poor start, ends up in 8th. Nikolai Bogotayev ends up in 9th, with Samuel Buzyn in 10th. It's Dominic Sori, 11th. Ole Christian Unberg in 12th. It's Alex Masse, Sergei Glaskov, Vincent O'Brien, Katie Rose Taranto, Gary Croft, and Michael Frost, who was 3 laps down and therefore will not be eligible for the first grid, which I think we are about to find out.
Yes, the wheel is on your screen right now. Let's see what we get for the second race of tonight. Remember, it is 3 races, 3 short sprint races at the summit point. So for the race 2, it is number 5 for the reverse.
Wow.
Ooh.
So, Richard Warmingham will be on pole position. I'm not biased. We're not biased. We just want to see good racing. At least the last race will be a full reverse, and I do not expect Johnny Brandon to necessarily take home that race 2 because he's got 4 very quick drivers ahead of him. So it will be Warmingham, Mcknight, Jackson, Klusterman, Brandon, and then Boehmer and Woodward for the grid in race 2. Do not miss it. Should be absolutely fantastic here at some point. We'll see you back in about 20 minutes time.
My name is Stephen Corpenos. I'm a senior web developer here at iRacing, and I work on the beta UI. It's funny because iRacing has been around for 10 years, but we want to keep delivering the best possible user experience to our customers, and we've found that the old UI isn't exactly what we're trying to deliver in 2018. We want to use new features and provide the best possible experience when using the sim. One of the projects that I've been working on is some custom heat racing configuration for hosted races. We've been listening to our customers. Everyone's been asking for custom heat races. Maybe you want to tweak a few things with the preset iRacing configurations. Well, now you can using the beta UI. So once you're at the homepage of the beta UI, you just go to create a race. Then from there you go to your set race options. And you'll notice here under event types, you can actually choose heat racing. First, I'm going to show you how to create a new format from scratch. You can choose the number of entrants. And as you can see, when I made that change, the change was actually reflected on the right side in the graph. Also, you can use the estimated duration at the bottom of the graph when you're changing the length to see what the total duration of your event will be. In addition, you can customize every aspect of the session information, practice, qualifying, heat races, consolations, and of course, the final feature race. Because the beta UI allows us to develop features that are robust and complex, this feature will be exclusively available on the beta UI. Once you've made all of the changes, you can hit save. Say you forgot what you selected. You can always preview it using the preview format button. We are very excited to release the brand new heat racing configuration feature that will be available in Season 3 of iRacing.
Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together, just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website.
Hi there, I'm Richard Jobling, Senior Software Engineer here at iRacing. I'd like to show you some of the work that we've been doing to improve the collision and the damage in our sim. One of the major changes we've made is how our collision systems work. The old system stored the track as parametric surfaces, and the cars were made of collections of spheres. As the cars moved around the track, we would recompute planes using the track surfaces, and then test those against the spheres. This worked well for spheres, but was too specialized to adapt to our shapes. So for the new system, we've built new high-resolution meshes for each track. This is more efficient and gives us a lot more flexibility for the car shapes. The new mesh incorporates all the track features our guys work so hard to replicate. Things like curb geometry and changes in the surface material are all baked into the mesh. We've also taken our laser scan data and applied that to the mesh. And since the mesh is so high resolution, we capture all the detail that's necessary so that the tracks are just like the real thing. With our new mesh, we can now represent cars using smooth, convex hulls, which grouped together form the chassis, the bodywork, and all the other parts of the car. The new shapes are a much closer fit to the shape of the real car. During impacts, the shapes can deform according to the damage, and eventually they can break off as separate objects. All the parts, like wings, hoods, and wheels, can also hang from their joints, flapping and vibrating until they eventually snap off. All these changes are going to add a whole new level of realism to our races. If you want to find out more, please visit iracing.com and check out my blog post for lots more details.
Hi, my name is Greg Hill. I'm the Vice President of Art and Production here at iRacing. This damage project that we've been discussing is certainly a project that involved all hands on deck to pull off. We've got a rather sizable number of cars in our portfolio, and not all of these cars have been built with this dynamic damage system in mind. So what we had to do is one by one go through our race cars, and we had a team of 3 artists, a highly technical modeler, our technical art director, and our associate art director. All took on each car one at a time, and the work involved was researching that car, researching what would happen to that car if it were in a crash, depending on the forces involved in the crash, how severely it would be damaged, what parts might come off, what those pieces might look like when they're removed, what it would look like where the car has areas exposed that were previously covered by bodywork. So they had to do a lot of modeling to each race car, and they had to do a lot of work to essentially set up how the car would react to forces. So essentially setting the strength of the materials. What kind of force would it take to rip off the side pod, for example? Or under what circumstances would this nose cone get ripped off of a car? Or under which would it remain, but just be badly damaged? But all said, it's been a lot of work, but seeing the car models interact with the physics system and the new crash dynamics is really exciting and really cool to see, and definitely makes all that hard work worth it.
Hi, my name is Jose Diaz. I'm a visual effects artist at iRacing. I specialize in particle effects ranging from fireworks to water fountains, debris, crash, impacts, all in the service of improving the driving experience. So you have the main sort of new damage model that Richard's been working on. So that takes into consideration all the mounts and the chassis from the cars and which materials they are. And he's making all the calculations that tell you, like, okay, it got hit from this one side and the strength of that impact is this certain amount of values. If you hit something, that means that this mount gets off, something breaks. This gets added on top of that to sort of complement what is happening there with things that you would see in real life when a car crashes. So typically in a car crash, you will see all these little particles of dust, metal, scratches, that will take all that force and momentum and kind of explode in a way. And it's all being driven by how fast the car was coming, how hard the impact was against what. That will give you that sense of like, man, that person really crashed hard. or oh, it was just a small bump.
Hi, my name is Chris Lurch. I'm one of the vehicle dynamicists here at iRacing. Our role in the collision project is to tune the collision properties of each and every car to ensure that they behave in wrecks as a real car would. And we've spent quite a bit of time going through literature from the automotive industry on the subject to make sure that we have panels that deform the way they're supposed to, both temporarily and permanently, that pieces that don't deform but rather just break at appropriate times in appropriate ways. The cars are absorbing energy the way they should and aren't sort of bouncing off the walls in crazy ways. The major properties that we look at are stiffnesses, which is how much a piece of the car deforms when a load is applied to it. And then we look at a couple of limits. One is the force limit beyond which the piece deforms permanently. And then the second limit that we look at is the brake limit, the force limit beyond which the piece will simply break. And then we also will look at damping, which is how much the piece absorbs energy versus how much it takes like a spring and can absorb as potential energy and then rebound back out like a basketball would.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
My name is Stephen Corpenos. I'm a senior web developer here at iRacing, and I work on the beta UI. It's funny because iRacing has been around for
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Summit Point Raceway. It's the Euro V8's race 2 out of 3 for this evening. Marco Barbanera here with you, and Sam Fitzpatrick will join us momentarily, and we are getting ready for the second race of the night with Richard Wormingham starting on pole position thanks to the reverse grid. He will be joined on the front row by JV Mcknight. Then we will have Chris Jackson, Tony Klusterman and Johnny Brandon in the top 5, so a small reverse, which of course will be very, very important for these top drivers here. The fast guys will take this as a very, very good sign, because most of the times with the reverse they are forced to make their way from the back of the pack back to the front in the second race, but not today. And they know that the third race is going to be a full reverse, so an unexpected occasion, an unexpected chance for these guys to make some good points even in the second race. Is one of the, race 2 and race 3 are usually the chaotic ones, so it's going to put an interesting spin on this race here. Of course, we have moved from the early morning setting for the first race to an afternoon setting for the second one, so the track will be a little bit hotter, and of course this will provide a little bit less grip for these guys. As we can see now on screen right now, you see the key data from Summit Point with the track temperature and the wind and the weather settings. So it is going to be another very interesting race. No pit stops are expected, a straight sprint from start to finish, 17 laps with the starting grid. Richard Wormingham is in pole position. It's Jamie Mcknight in P2, Chris Jackson P3, Tony Klusterman in P4. The race 1 winner is Johnny Brandon. He will start in P5. Erling Bomer, a new driver in the series, second round for him. He had a very, very nice first race today, starting in P6 now. Anthony Woodward P7, Thor Anders Verve in P8, Nikolai Bokatairev in 9th, and you can see Samuel Busin, Dominic Soiree, Olle Wunenberg, Alex Masse, Sergei Glaskov, Brian Katie Taranto, Gary Croft and Michael Frost rounding up the 18-car field for race 2 out of 3 tonight, as we are just a few seconds away from the start of the second race, as all the cars are revving up. 5 lights, and we are rolling. A good start from Jackson. He had a perfect getaway, and he's going to make it 3 wide in the first corner with Mcknight. And you can see also Wormingham going into the first corner. What a fantastic start by Chris Jackson. He gets the first position using a little bit of muscles here and there. Mcknight in second, Wormingham in third, and Klusterman and Johnny Brandon sitting in P5. Woodward, Verve, Bokatairev, Buzin and Bomer round up the top 10 as they get for the first time to the left-hander, and we have Bokatairev, another easier guy in the grass, but all good, no major damage as they get for the first time down to the hairpin, and the status quo remains the same. But Mcknight makes a little mistake, and I think we have Sam Fitzpatrick back, and we welcome him back with his contact between Mcknight and Wormingham. Welcome back, Sam.
Yes, apologies for that, but yeah, what a great start there for Chris Jackson. That was, pretty incredible. From the second row of the grid, just storms through, which one not the best start, as Anthony Woodward just losing a couple of positions there. He's, dropped down, I think, outside the top 10 for now. And Erling Bomer still maintaining his position, but I think Johnny Brandon's still running in 5th position. He failed to make up any places, but Chris Jackson, I said in the first race how strong he was, and in this second race, he could be able to pull away from the rest of the field. Richard Warmium might lose another position here as Klinsmann looks to the inside. It's all going on in this massive pack behind as well. And Anthony Woodward is round, and there could be contact as well. Somehow there isn't major contact. Anthony Woodward, though, right to the rear of the field.
A disaster for Woodward. Race 1, of course, he lost positions after that contact that sent O'Brien, or was it Croft? I think it was Croft, in the barrier. And Mcknight has a mistake! Straight into the fence, race over for him. Wow, what a big mistake from P2 for Jamie Mcknight.
It could be a crucial mistake in the championship. This is the first time we've seen some real fragility from Jamie Mcknight, and that is quite a clumsy mistake, or at least he'll think of it as that. And well, it won't be race over for him seemingly, because he seems to still have decent pace, and he might look very strong for the third race of the evening. But that is crucial points thrown away.
Let's see if he has to pit, because sometimes the car feels fine, but you have that meatball flag and that, of course, black flag with the orange disc. It doesn't seem to have it, but that looked terminal damage, I think, add-on with the wall. Lucky for him there was a tire barrier there and not the concrete wall, otherwise it would have been game over. So it seems like Mcknight is able to continue. Now, you see the chaos, even though the field wasn't shuffled that much, Sam. I'm seeing a little bit more chaos. You know, the drivers in race 1, they had a possibility to get acquainted with the track, and now they know what they have to do. They want to get better finishing position in race 2, and they are being really aggressive here. And also I was saying, you know, no disrespect to Mcknight, but maybe he would be able to hold back all the guys behind him. Now that he's out of the equation this early, if Klusterman, Brandon, Wormingham can push hard, they will be able, I think, to at least try and have a chance to close the gap with Jackson.
Yeah, I think so. Well, yeah, Jackson in that first race looked really strong, but we don't really know what Johnny Brandon's pace is like. We know Klinsmann would have been pushing its absolute all. He always pushes absolutely to 110%, does Tony Klinsmann. So we know what his pace is like, and it seems to be about matching Chris Jackson. Johnny Brandon currently just stuck behind at the moment, of course, in that first race. Maybe he was cruising, maybe he had a little bit more pace available. We'll just have to wait and see in this race as he goes a little bit sideways. Richard Warmium doing well. He is now dropping off a little bit. Is Warmium doesn't look like he's going to be able to keep up. Erling Bowman still doing well in fifth. It's, I think, the major part of this race now is how many positions can Jamie Mcknight recover, because a low finishing position like this, it's going to cost him a lot of points. And here he is down in 16th position currently, and well, he'll try to get back into the top 10 at least, and then really try to win race 3 of the evening.
Yes, I mean, if you were a wild card, you would say, okay, I'll take the bad finishing position, but starting up front for race 3, going for the race win. But in this championship that is so tight, you cannot afford to lose points. So I think Mcknight will have to do as many overtakes as possible. Even with this damaged car, you can see his hood is pointing upwards, and is never a good sign. Now making a move on Anneberg. In the final corner, he is able to move up to P15. Still a long snake of cars in front of him, which is both a bad thing and a good thing, because they are so bunched together, he can make a move. And now smoking tires in front of Soirée, I think it is, and O'Brien and Buzin, you can see, of course, Soirée's teammates fighting for P9, P10 and P11 here, but like I said, they are all battling basically in this huge pack in the middle of the field.
Yeah, that was O'Brien actually recovering pretty well. He's already up into the top 10, up 5 positions. There goes Jamie Mcknight. Is that 13th position for him now? Yes, it is. Down 11 places still from his start. So yeah, who can Mcknight get? He should be able to get Taranto, Sori, O'Brien and Buzan, maybe even Glaskov as well, and even Masse as well. Masse having a great race up in 6th place currently. Sorry, 7th place currently. So yeah, a few positions he can gain. But yeah, Masse, how's he done that? Yeah, absolutely superb from him so far. Yeah, up 6 places from his start scene.
I mean, if he's able to keep it in 7th place, I really don't know what to think about Alex, because he had some great showings and some not so great showings. Maybe he's one of those, drivers that needs to work on his consistency, and when he gets there, he might be a dangerous driver in all the races. Sometimes, even earlier today, but also in the Road America event, he made some bad mistakes. At Phillip Island, he was fantastic. So I would really love to see the real Alex Masse. So let's see, because of course now we will have to battle with Bocataire right in front of him, and he's not an easy guy to pass. We see, good battle for P6 in the next few laps. I think this is going to be very, very interesting, and as now I think the leaders will go once again on the start-finish line so we can see the lap times. Of course, the top three have been really consistent with one another, but I think Johnny Brandon wants to move past Klusterman and have some clean track ahead, because I think he knows he's faster than Jackson, but he has to make the move.
Yeah, it's going to be so difficult, Antonio. You won't let him pass easily. Here comes Alex Masse, and he is going to get past easily, seemingly, past Nikolai Bogatayev, because Bogatayev, a very experienced driver in this series. I think he's certainly been around since Season 3, I believe. And just losing out that Masse moving through. And yeah, up into the top 6 now is Alex Masse. And you know what? Erlen Boehmer is not that far up the road, only a couple of seconds ahead. And so that one will look possible for Masse. But yeah, you're totally right, Marco, in terms of Masse. And even at Phillip Island, whilst he did drive fantastically, he did still make a couple of mistakes, which maybe cost him an even better result than what he ended up with. Here is Mcknight then. And yeah, he's just looking for every which way to get past. And yeah, in the end, off the circuit there for Mcknight. He might still be able to make it, and actually lost a position, I think, in the end.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Alex Masse, this car, of course, is a car that requires a lot of sit time, and sometimes, especially in the beginning of your driving experience with this car, you think you are fast, you think you have things under control, and then the car... I have to interrupt my thoughts, because for the second straight lap, Klusterman took half a second away from Jackson, as we see a car running on the grass there. I think the driver was able to save the car, Unenberg, yes. So major accident avoided there, because I thought he was going to spin into the oncoming traffic. So, if I'm not mistaken, Klusterman got half a second in the previous lap on Jackson, and half a second on this lap, and all of this whilst having Johnny Brandon right on his tail.
Yeah, so yeah, they are coming back now. Jackson, after really pulling out quite a comfortable lead initially. And yeah, he's going to be under pressure. Of course, Tony last season, last round at Oran Park, was the same structure as this, 3 super sprints, and he actually was trying to back up the field to help his teammate get a win. That would have been his first win of the season. In the end, Jackson made a mistake, which kind of made the whole plan irrelevant in the end. But of course, Tony, he still wants to win the championship. And so he'll be looking for the race win if he possibly can. Will not be doing his teammate any favours. Brandon is really close, and he might still go for a move, but not quite. He was nearly in range though, and it really looks like Marco. Oh, and Klusterman's all over the place. And he's going to be under pressure going into turn 2. He'll know though, just to put his car on the inside. He hasn't done that though, and they've made contact. Johnny Brandon up into second place, and Tony Klusterman in the wall.
Wow, that was not expected, I think. I didn't think Johnny was going to go for that move. It's a very difficult corner to get your move done, and you see Tony was all over the place. That gave, of course, Johnny maybe the idea he could go for a move, but this is a very tough place to pass. And sadly, as you can see, a hard hit for Tony Klusterman. And he is in the fence, and he didn't want this because he needed a good round. We said he had a good first race. Now he's down to P7, and we will have to see if he will be able to continue, if his car is good enough, and if he doesn't have a black flag with an orange marker, or a required repairs flag. Let's see, mechanical black flag, that's the right way to say it, sorry. Seems to be good, in the sense that he can continue, he's not stopping, but you can see he's holding the steering wheel on the left, so suspension damage for him.
Yeah, so he's really going to struggle to make the moves on the drives just ahead. Sergei Glaskov is under big pressure from Samuel Buzan, and there they are. and Buzan having to go, going through in the end. Past Glasgow, he had a fantastic start earlier on, moved up into the top 6, I think, from 14th on the grid, just been falling down ever since then, and here's this battle with Mcknight on the end of it. Turante, I think, holding off Brevin there with Mcknight just waiting behind. Has not been able to make any progress in the past couple of laps, but here comes Brevin trying to go down the inside. This is the corner where Mcknight, of course, made that costly mistake earlier on, and he's not willing to make the move just yet.
You know, speaking of Johnny Brandon, I think that his contact with Klusterman was damage for Klusterman was not. I think the big part of his damage was not with the contact with the wall, but the wheel-to-wheel contact, and we know we've seen it many times in this series. If you make wheel-to-wheel contact, you can get suspension damage more often than not. Then the hit with the wall was a hard one, but it was not at a particularly bad angle. So I think that is what caused the problem. As you see now, Johnny Brandon sitting in second place. Now he has 7 laps to go and catch Chris Jackson. I'm sure, oh man, he's pushing hard. I'm sure he's not happy about what happened earlier. He's a very fair competitor. He doesn't want to push people out of the way. But that happened, so they will deal with it later, I think, with the post-race penalties, or later in the week. We have to concentrate on the race, and we know that Johnny is trying to catch Jackson, so this could be interesting towards the end of the race. Let's see the lap times in a few seconds.
Yeah, and Brandon and Klusterman have got a little bit of history this season. I think that's maybe their 3rd collision with one another. I think they had a bit of an incident at Okayama Short. That was the other super sprint event this season. And then, of course, also had that collision at Road America 2 weeks ago, where, Klusterman just tapped the rear corner of Brandon, so you could say they're even now. But yeah, half a second fast on that last lap for Johnny Brandon, 2.5 seconds behind. And with 6 laps to go, it's looking like he's going to be able to catch him by the end of this race. But will he be able to pass him in the couple of laps that he will have to get the job done? These two now a long way ahead. Still getting really interesting between Taranto, Croft, Bourbon and Woodward out there. And there it goes. Very deep on the brakes. Guy Croft off the circuit. And drops a couple of positions.
That was never going to work. Luckily, he was able to avoid his fellow competitors, because otherwise that would have been a very big crash. So Croft has it all to do once again, down to P15 right now, Mcknight P11, so keeping an eye on him, trying to get back. There's a big crash. I think it's Katie Rostaranto in the fence, the same crash that Mcknight did earlier, I think.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it is. Well, it's not identical necessarily, because that was a little bit more unlucky for Taranto. Just tipping a wheel onto the grass, and once you get onto the brakes like that, you lose all kinds of grip. Whereas Mcknight's was a little bit more on the grass. But Taranto, same result in the end. And yeah, she's right to the back of the field now, I believe. Yeah, I think so. Down into 18th place now. Still Mcknight trying to make his way up through the field, so he's now got he's now got Vincent O'Brien about 1.5 seconds up the road. But here's the more pressing battle. Sorry, under pressure from Uneberg currently, and to go defensive after trying to attack Croft just a couple of corners ago. At the moment, they stay the same. Also on that last lap, very important lap time for Chris Jackson. He managed to pull out nearly 1/10 of a second on Johnny Brandon, which was absolutely crucial. Brandon just with a slightly slower lap time. And on this lap, once again, Brandon only making up 1/10 of a second. He seems to have steadied the tide now, Marco, and Chris Jackson well on course for his second race victory of the season.
Yes, he was able to get back to a decent gap over Johnny Brandon, so not a lot of laps left in the race. So I think he will be able to hold on this win. good race so far from P4 and P5, of course, Bomer and Masse. I think this will be their best result in the series if they can finish in this 4th and 5th position, and it would be very good for them. Masse has to look behind him, but Bokatairev is 2 seconds and a bit ahead, so I think he will be safe for the time being if he doesn't make a mistake. Tony Klusterman stuck in P7 after the crash. He's been sitting there for a few laps, and he of course has to deal with some pretty bad suspension damage, so it's going to be tough for him to make up some position. As you can see in the straights, we saw it before, he needs to keep the wheel pointing to the left if he wants to go straight, so that is not ideal, of course, and it will pose big problems for the rest of the race. 3 laps to go, so he has to hopefully keep the car in 7th place, get the points, and hope for a better race 3.
Yeah, if anything, he's actually dropping back into Samuel Buzan currently on that last lap. Buzan was, well, I say dropping back 2 100ths faster. So dropping back very slowly is Tony Klusterman. The gap between them, 1.4 seconds currently. So yeah, that's not going to be an issue, I think, for Tony by the end of the race. Just about consolidating that 7th place, and maybe in that last race of the evening, he could have a chance at maybe a race victory. I'll remind you that the last race of the evening will be a full reverse on the finishing positions of this race. And so, yeah, it would be a great opportunity for a couple of drivers, including Klusterman and Mcknight, who have had difficult races so far, to maybe salvage a good result. Michael Frost appears to be out of this race. He's stayed back to the pits. And, yeah, after a not very good first race, this one has gone just as bad.
Tell you what, Bomer and Masse will battle for this P4 after all, with 2 laps left in the race. Let's see if Masse is happy with P5 or if he will go for a move. I think he will go for a move if he has the chance.
Yeah, would round off a superb drive, which any of the top drivers would be very pleased with. Of course, Alex Masse started in 13th position. And of course, Richard Warren, you can see him just up the road. Richard, after a good qualifying, not seemingly quite having the same pace. He's fought for podiums so far this season, but today, despite he's actually going to get a podium in this one, but only due to a couple of mistakes from the drivers ahead. Masse, though, just trying to line this one up, all about just being patient on the thoughts of this part of the circuit, just lining up the apexes one after the other, and now that's a really good drive from Alex Masse, but will he be able to go down the inside into the final corner? Not quite. Now he needs to try to keep his momentum up through the final corner, just a little bit sideways. Both of them were sideways. You could see that Erling Bomer was actually on the brakes at one point, trying to correct the car. Masse, though, closing. Right in the middle of the circuit, though, is Bomer. Masse down the inside every way, and in the end, it's a mistake, Marco. Could have been a whole lot worse, just a little bit over-aggressive.
Yeah, and I think he was able to keep the 5th position. Yeah, he's still in P5, even though Bokatairev has closed the gap, but I don't think it will be enough. So, yeah, I mean, I love drivers that go for it, even when it's the final lap of the race, and they've done already a great race. That could have ended badly for him, but he managed to get P5, and it would be a fantastic result for him, and P4 for Bomer, of course. But I think that Chris Jackson is about to win the race.
Yeah, what a drive this has been from Chris Jackson. It was all about the start, and since then he's not put a foot wrong. What a start it was, from 3rd to 1st by the first corner. Chris Jackson's going to take his 2nd race victory of the season here at Summit Point. He fully deserves it. The Canadian driver claims those 150 points. He beats Johnny Brandon, who will be delighted with that result, because it just extends his championship lead further. With Richard Warming in 3rd, Erling Bomer will hang on to his best result in this race in 4th, with Alex Masse in 5th place. Klusterman comes home in 7th. Mcknight isn't going to get Glasgow by the end of this race. He's going to finish in 10th place soon, although he did get past O'Brien, who only just beat Bourbon. So, yeah, seemingly something happening to O'Brien on that last lap of the race. the action-packed second race though, Marco, and whilst we did see the mistakes from Klosterman and Mcknight as well, we still saw a really close fight for the race win. Johnny Brandon pushed Chris Jackson right to the limit, but to give credit to Jackson, whilst maybe we've seen his fragility in the past, maybe making a couple of unnecessary mistakes today, he was absolutely resolute.
Yes, absolutely. It was a fantastic race too. I can't wait for the full reverse. I think, of course, it will be an even more chaotic race. Chris Jackson won the race, and I think he won the race in a Formula 1 style. By getting a good start and leading in the first corner, he left the chaos behind him and was able to get a good race win.
Yeah, so far we haven't seen any overtakes for the lead. So, whoever's leading after turn 1 in the third race, do not count them out even if they are a little bit slow. But Chris Jackson, of course, taking that race victory 1 second ahead of Johnny Brandon. Richard warming up finishes in third, and he'll be very thankful of that after struggling off the line. Erling Bowman, fantastic result in fourth. Alex Masse finishes in fifth, very good result for him. So too, Nikolai Bogotyrev in sixth. Tony Klosterman had the nudge from Johnny Brandon earlier on. They will no doubt be discussing that after this race. Samuel Buzan in eighth. Sergei Glazkov finishes in ninth, and Jamie Mcknight, after a completely unforced error, ends up in 10th. He could have well beaten Brandon in that race, but should still look strong in the third race. Brenton O'Brien finishes in 11th. There's Tor Anders Bourbon, Anthony Woodward, Gary Croft, Dominic Sori, Ole Christian Uneberg, and Katie Rose Taranto. Michael Frost was once again the lap stand and will not be eligible for the full reverse grid, which means we'll have Katie Rose Taranto on pole position. It'll be a reverse of 17 cars. Taranto on pole with Uneberg in second position. That's going to be quite some race coming up for you in about 20 minutes time. Do not miss it. Race 3 of the evening here in the UV8s.
We want to keep delivering the best possible user experience to our customers, and we've found that the old UI isn't exactly what we're trying to deliver in 2018. We want to use new features and provide the best possible experience when using the sim. One of the projects that I've been working on is some custom heat racing configuration for hosted races. We've been listening to our customers. Everyone's been asking for custom heat races. Maybe you want to tweak a few things with the preset iRacing configurations. Well, now you can using the Beta UI. So once you're at the homepage of the Beta UI, you just go to Create a Race. Then from there, you go to your Set Race options. And you'll notice here under Event Types, you can actually choose Heat Racing. First, I'm going to show you how to create a new format from scratch. You can choose the number of entrants. And as you can see, when I made that change, the change was actually reflected on the right side in the graph. Also, you can use the estimated duration at the bottom of the graph when you're changing the length to see what the total duration of your event will be. In addition, you can customize every aspect of the session information, practice, qualifying, heat races, consolations, and of course, the final feature race. Because the Beta UI allows us to develop features that are robust and complex, this feature will be exclusively available on the Beta UI. Once you've made all of the changes, you can hit Save. Say you forgot what you selected. You can always preview it using the Preview Format button. We are very excited to release the brand new heat racing configuration feature that will be available in Season 3 of iRacing.
Team racing allows multiple iRacing members to team up and race together, just like in real-world endurance series. Teammates can share driving duties, spot for one another, or be a crew chief. Team racing is free both to join a team and to create one. Each teammate races on his or her own computer from wherever they want to. Your teammates can be anywhere in the world, and changing drivers mid-race is as easy as a click of a button. iRacing features team endurance events ranging from just a couple of hours to 24 hours in length. So, if you fancy taking part in an iRacing endurance race in the future, you can learn more about team racing on the teams page on the member website.
Hi there, I'm Richard Jobling, Senior Software Engineer here at iRacing. I'd like to show you some of the work that we've been doing to improve the collision and the damage in our sim. One of the major changes we've made is how our collision systems work. The old system stored the track as parametric surfaces, and the cars were made of collections of spheres. As the cars moved around the track, we would recompute planes using the track surfaces, and then test those against the spheres. This worked well for spheres, but was too specialized to adapt to our shapes. So for the new system, we've built new high-resolution meshes for each track. This is more efficient and gives us a lot more flexibility for the car shapes. The new mesh incorporates all the track features our guys work so hard to replicate. Things like curb geometry and changes in the surface material are all baked into the mesh. We've also taken our laser scan data and applied that to the mesh. And since the mesh is so high resolution, we capture all the detail that's necessary so that the tracks are just like the real thing. With our new mesh, we can now represent cars using smooth, convex hulls, which grouped together form the chassis, the bodywork, and all the other parts of the car. The new shapes are a much closer fit to the shape of the real car. During impacts, the shapes can deform according to the damage, and eventually they can break off as separate objects. All the parts, like wings, hoods, and wheels, can also hang from their joints, flapping and vibrating until they eventually snap off. All these changes are going to add a whole new level of realism to our races. If you want to find out more, please visit iracing.com and check out my blog post for lots more details.
Hi, my name is Greg Hill. I'm the Vice President of Art and Production here at iRacing. This damage project that we've been discussing is certainly a project that involved all hands on deck to pull off. We've got a rather sizable number of cars in our portfolio, and not all of these cars have been built with this dynamic damage system in mind. So what we had to do is one by one go through our race cars, and we had a team of 3 artists, a highly technical modeler, our technical art director, and our associate art director. All took on each car one at a time, and the work involved was researching that car, researching what would happen to that car if it were in a crash, depending on the forces involved in the crash, how severely it would be damaged, what parts might come off, what those pieces might look like when they're removed, what it would look like where the car is has areas exposed that were previously covered by bodywork. So they had to do a lot of modeling to each race car, and they had to do a lot of work to essentially set up how the car would react to forces. So essentially setting the strength of the materials. What kind of force would it take to rip off this side pod, for example? Or under what circumstances would this nose cone get ripped off of a car? Or under which would it remain, but just be badly damaged? But all said, it's been a lot of work, but seeing the car models interact with the physics system and the new crash dynamics is really exciting and really cool to see, and definitely makes all that hard work worth it.
Hi, my name is Jose Diaz. I'm a visual effects artist at iRacing. I specialize in particle effects ranging from fireworks to water fountains, debris, crash, impacts, all in the service of improving the driving experience. So you have the main sort of new damage model that Richard's been working on. So that takes into consideration all the mounts and the chassis from the cars and which materials they are. And he's making all the calculations that tell you like, okay, it got hit from this one side and the strength of that impact is this certain amount of values. If you hit something, that means that this mount gets off, something breaks. This gets added on top of that to sort of complement what is happening there with things that you would see in real life when a car crashes. So typically in a car crash, you will see all these little particles of dust, metal, scratches that will take all that force and momentum and kind of explode in a way. And it's all being driven by how fast the car was coming, how hard the impact was against what. That will give you that sense of like, man, that person really crashed hard, or oh, it was just a small bump.
Hi, my name is Chris Lurch. I'm one of the vehicle dynamicists here at iRacing. Our role in the collision project is to tune the collision properties of each and every car to ensure that they behave and wrecks as a real car would. And we've spent quite a bit of time going through literature from the automotive industry on the subject to make sure that we have panels that deform the way they're supposed to, both temporarily and permanently, that pieces that don't deform but rather just break at appropriate times in appropriate ways. The cars are absorbing energy the way they should and aren't sort of bouncing off the walls in crazy ways. The major properties that we look at are stiffnesses, which is how much a piece of the car deforms when a load is applied to it. And then we look at a couple of limits. One is the force limit beyond which the piece deforms permanently. And then the second limit that we look at is the break limit, the force limit beyond which the piece will simply break. And then we also will look at damping, which is how much the piece absorbs energy versus how much it takes like a spring and can absorb as potential energy and then rebound back out like a basketball would.
the most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Once again, photo finish here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMeritt at the line.
Welcome back to the KSW Painting UAV8 Supercar series, and we are here for race 3 of the evening at Summit Point. I am Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me is Marco Barbanet with Sam Kume on the cameras. And so far today, Marco, we've seen 2 pretty much lights to flag victories. I don't think it's going to be the case today, although Katie Race Trento, I'm sure, will be hoping it will be like that. I'm expecting this race 3 with the full reverse grid to be yeah, quite action-packed.
Absolutely. It's not going to be easy for the guy starting at the front. Of course, everyone from the back will try to make up as many positions as possible in the first lap, first corner, and I'm expecting a little bit of chaos, I'd say, especially there in the first corner, the first few laps. And also, Sam, we have to say that there are some of the drivers that are not happy with some other drivers, so you know that the tension is rising a bit, and more often than not we see in this race 3 people trying to do more than they can handle. You know, you had 2 bad races to start the night, you want to make up for it in the third race. Maybe you go a little bit deeper on the brakes, you try to make an over ambitious move, and that's how chaos gets created basically. So I would say this is going to be the most chaotic race of the evening, and I'm expecting a lot of fun. Of course, like the first two races, 17 laps, no pit stop expected. So it's going to be another super sprint race, and I can't wait for the race to start.
Yeah, should be a fantastic event. Of course, something that we've forgotten after the first two races is uninteresting, useless facts about where we are. We are here at West Virginia, which has the world's largest sycamore tree. It's located on the back fork of the Elk River in Webster Springs. I don't know where any of those places are, but we've only got 10 more seconds of practice to go, and then I think we'll be able to go through the grid for this final race of the evening. And after a couple of difficult races for Joey Mcknight, the main championship contender to Johnny Brown, it's important that he gets a good result in this one, Marco.
Yes, absolutely. Want to, like I said, avoid the chaos, try to make as many positions as possible, and maybe, even though I shouldn't say this, hope that one of your rivals get into trouble. Part of the game, and it can also happen as the cars are getting ready to start.
Yeah, it's Katie Race Toronto on pole position ahead of Ole Christian Unberg, and then it's Dominic Soy, Anthony Woodward, and Tor Anders Bourbon rounding out the top 5 other big names to watch out for. Jay Mcknight starting in 7th, Tony Klusman from 10th, and then Brandon and Jackson starting from 15th and 16th respectively. It'll be fascinating to see how those drivers make their way through the field. Of course, just a reminder, on the first two races we have not seen any changes for the lead post turn 1. The question is, will we see a change of the lead in this race? It'll be a fascinating event. Race 3 of the evening here at Summit Point. It's about to get underway. And away we go. And Taranto gets a really good start. All getting a little bit swivelly just behind. But Uneberg has also got a good start and might even challenge going into turn 1. The top 2 side by side going into turn 1. But Taranto will hold on for now and takes the lead on this opening lap. A little bit of contact just behind, but seemingly everyone has got away okay. Bourbon trying to make up another position, trying to get past Woodward, already made up a position as Bourbon, and he's up into 4th position. Not a good start for Sorry, and round goes Brenton O'Brien and a KSW Painting driver. That is Sergei Glaskov off the circuit.
Yeah, Bogatairev as well in the grass, a few feet ahead. So I think these 3 guys are all involved. I think Bogatairev was not related to this contact here, but apart from this, good start from everyone. Taranto is able to keep the first position. Uneberg getting very, very close, and I tell you what, Woodward has a very, very good chance at a great result if he's able to keep it close with these guys in the front. Also Bourbon, P4 Soiree, P5 Mcknight and Klusterman can make up for their problems in the first race, as Mcknight is going for a move on Soiree on the start-finish line.
What a performance this has got to be from Jay Mcknight. If he's going to make up points, he wants to win this race. Anything less would be a disappointment for him. And he has now taken that position. He's up into the top 5 from 7th on the grid. You can see Tony Policeman only just behind. How can he make his way up the field? And we've also got Johnny Brandon as well. I think going for a move there on Alex Masse, I believe. And Brandon, yeah, right on the tail. They're going to be side by side though. Can Brandon do anything about this? It's got to be super cautious though. There's no point in losing points in the championship. And Brandon losing a lot of time currently. He tries to go down the inside of the Atia Racing driver. Gets on 2 wheels. And that's the dangers that lurk for Johnny Brandon in this race, Marco.
Absolutely. In the meantime, Uneberg is able to get the lead of the race. He went around Taranto in the beginning of the lap. Johnny Brandon is in a lot of traffic right now, and disaster can happen at any second now. Side by side, he gets by boozing for P9. He will go after Alex Masse later. He's got Chris Jackson just 2 cars behind him. There's boozing in between the 2. Wormingham is in 12th position. Of course, Klusterman is in P6. So him and Mcknight are, of course, looking very, very good. There's a lot of smoke. Every time we get into the first corner, someone is locking up. It's a very, very tricky corner, Sam. seems easy on paper, but it is not.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure who that was. Like you said, there's always smoke down there. Mcknight running a little bit wide. He got the move done on the Vikings car, but all of a sudden that position put under threat. He has just about made it through though, and Klusman following him through. So they are now 4th and 5th respectively, and Mcknight having to go defensive. He really wants to win this one, and Mcknight actually disappears momentarily, for me at least. Oh, Bourbon nearly makes contact there with Klusman. I don't know what's happened to Jamie Mcknight out there. He's still vanished for me.
Yeah, he is not on my screen as well.
He's down to 13th place, I think, is Mcknight. I think I saw him briefly. There he is. Awful for Jamie Mcknight. And he's got a big issue, and that might be his race over.
Yeah, I think not freezing issues, hardware failure or something like that, because he slowed down a lot, or just, you know, connection trouble that forced him to slow down. As Tanato gets the lead back, what happened there? It seems like Huneberg had started building a nice gap over P2, but all of a sudden he's relegated to the 2nd place, and now Woodward is fancying his chances to get around Huneberg and get into that 2nd place and maybe hunt for the win.
Oh, here we go into turn 3. Taranto, who made a mistake in the 2nd race round that corner. No mistake this time, but they are losing each other so much time. Really, if they were going to win this race, they had to pull out a big gap in these opening stages. But with all this fighting going on, it looks as though Tony Klusman is going to be onto the back of them. And look at that. He already is onto the back of Anthony Woodward, with more arriving, likes of Brandon and Jackson already up to 7th and 8th position. So this is just a train. There's no packs at all around this field. It's just a train of pretty much everyone down to 12th position, and it's all to play for everyone right now.
Yeah, let's see if there are going to be team orders to help Tony a bit. Of course, they are teammates, even though the front of the car is slightly different. That's because one of the guys is for NQR UK, the other for NQR North America, as we ride on board with Tony. Oh, what a save!
Wow.
What a save by Tony. That was disaster waiting to happen for him, but he was able to save the car, and if he's able to win this race, this was the key moment, I think, because that could have been a disaster, Sam.
Yeah, well, he never holds back, as I was saying earlier on, and he doesn't have to be rapid through these drivers. He's got a little bit of time to get this one done, because currently Brandon and Jackson, there's a couple of cars between Klusman and those two drivers. But he wants to make this move sooner rather than later, so far he hasn't been able to line it up, but this time down the pit straight he might just stand a chance. They are all so close, so he might have a change for the race lead here. The top 4 are all going to be moving into the same spot here. Taranto under pressure from Uneberg, who goes down the inside into turn 1, and Uneberg will take back that position for Team Vikings. It's side by side for 2nd place, and Uneberg might just be able to pull out a little bit of a lead. Woodward moves up into 2nd place. Klusman shoves his way through into 3rd as Taranto falls down the field into 4th. And Klusman, we might even have a chance at Woodward going into turn 3 there, right back onto the back of Uneberg. And Taranto having to defend more against Team Vikings.
It's a bit of a mistake there from Uneberg coming out of the airpin. Woodward is really close to him, and also in the back you see it's Johnny Brandon trying to get around Bourbon in 5th place. So Johnny and Jackson are one after the other making their way through the field, as well as Woodward is going for the lead.
Oh, we've had a thought about it, but wide is Uneberg, and he's going to lose 2 positions. And Klosterman, what a run this is now. Will his teammate defend against him? I don't think he will. Tony Klosterman to the inside down the pit straight here at Summit Point, and he's surely going to take the race lead here. Down the inside he goes. Can he get it stopped? He can do. And Tony Klosterman, that might just be the move that seals this race for him. He's into the lead, and can he now pull away from the rest of the field?
Yeah, now I think he will opt for Woodward to stay in P2 as long as he can. In the meantime, Brandon will be desperate to make moves on Berven and Taranto, and the same goes for Jackson, of course. They don't want to give Krusterman any kind of advantage, and we have some contact there, and Unneberg and Masse have a collision. Unneberg is left in the grass. Let's see, big damage for Masse as well. They made wheel-to-wheel contact, Sam, so let's hope they don't have suspension damage. Even though I see Unneberg struggling a lot to make this corner, so that's not a good omen.
Yeah, the steering seems to be half decent for.
Oh, Alex Masse!
Is he going to be round? He's just about saved it, but onto the gravel. He might lose position to Unneberg, who, remember, only a lap ago was leading the race. And Masse now loses out to a couple of drivers. That was Bowman and Sorry. And here comes Brandon down the inside. That's past Taranto. I don't think Taranto is going to put up too much of a fight, to be honest. And Brandon's up into third position. Where is Jackson in relation to this? Jackson is right onto the rear of this field. And yeah, just trying to make the move currently on Bourbon, but he's losing touch with Johnny Brandon. He's already looking for a move on Anthony Woodward.
I tell you what, Johnny must have made a fantastic move there, because I think he was able to get 2 positions in one corner, and that was crucial if he wants to go and challenge Tony for the race win. Of course, now Woodward will do the most he can in order to keep Johnny behind him or make him lose as much time as possible. Of course, Anthony is also a very good driver himself, so it's not just, he's not only playing a spoiler role, he's also running for himself, and Berven is in the gravel, spinning in the middle of the racing line. Hopefully they will all be able to avoid him. He puts on the reverse and lives to fight another day. That was a scary moment and big disappointment for him, because he was having a good run.
Yeah, very disappointing. Here's Brandon again getting a little bit sideways, going out of turn 1. He might stand a chance. This is the move he tried to go for on Kliesman. It didn't end well last time. It's ended very well this time. As Johnny Brandon goes down the inside, it's not all over as they make a little bit of contact. And actually, in the end, Woodward just about pulling ahead. He seemed to disappear for a second there, Mike. I thought the move was done. I think in the end, that slight lag for dropout for Woodward proved very helpful.
And look at that, I mean, the traffic is so important here that even though Johnny is very, very quick, this battle with Woodward has made it possible for Taranto to get back on his tail, basically. So you lose a lot of time in traffic around here. So let's see if Johnny is able to make the move down the inside of Anthony here on the front stretch into the first corner.
Woodward is going to go defensive, or is he? He goes to the outside. He's given Brandon the inside. I don't know if that was deliberate or not from Anthony Woodward, but Brandon will go to the inside into turn 1, and he might be able to make the move this time. On the inside, it's slightly difficult to get the power down as Brandon finds that out, but it's not going to stop him from taking that second place. And now he can maybe go and challenge Tony Kliesman. He has got 3.5 seconds to catch though. Bowman putting more moves on out there. He is up 7 places now at Masse off the circuit. We've seen him have plenty of issues today, and actually I think being let past by Dominic Sori there.
Yeah, I think that Masse was able to avoid the wall there, which is always good. Let's catch a replay of that. Into the first corner, you see big damage on the front right of Masse's car, also hopping onto wheels into the grass, saving the car once again. The ECI driver goes side by side with him. Do they make contact? Yes, they do.
Yeah, and Sori actually letting his rival back past that, which he didn't really need to do. I think that was very generous, because that would possibly be called a racing incident anyway, but there you go, that was very gentlemanly from the ECI racing driver. Side by side between Bogotayev and Michael Frost. Frost, who started this race from last position. He tries to come back. I think that may have been a bit of an accident there from Frost. He loses out in the end to Bogotayev and drops down into 13th place.
Woodward under big pressure from Taranto. I think he made a mistake earlier. just a few seconds ago, and that made it possible for Taranto to close to the back of him. This all-important fight for P3.
Yeah, Taranto doesn't know when to give up, does she? And after losing the race lead earlier on, managed to get it back, then lost it again, did not give up. And even the podium is still looking possible because Chris Jackson is still 1.6 seconds behind, very much on a recovery drive after getting stuck behind a bit of traffic earlier on. I think it was Bourbon who he lost a lot of time to, but he is catching up to these couple of drivers very quickly at the moment. On that last lap, Jackson was 2 seconds faster than Taranto, so he'll be onto the back of her possibly by the end of this lap. Also, Glasgow, I think, going for a move on Frost, and has just made that move. Down the inside he goes, both with a bit of damage. Glasgow with not the best night of racing, and he's going to lose that position back again. It's good to see Sergey back onto the grid. I don't think we've seen too much of him this season. It's good to see him back out there, but he's once again lost that position to Michael Frost.
Yeah, as we are getting closer and closer to the end of the race, lap 12 out of 17. Kusterman, Brandon and Woodward, the top 3. Let's see Buzin defending from Birmingham here. His battle for P7. Bomer is in front of these guys actually. Going a bit wide there.
That was nice momentum carried there from Richard Warmingham. Of course, got a podium in race 2. Here's the move though for Jackson on Taranto. I said that he'd be onto the back of it by the end of the last lap. And there he goes, up into 4th position. Next up will be his teammate, Anthony Woodward. Top 3 of the top 4 are now Never Quit Racing drivers. So a good day for them, seemingly. Warmingham couldn't make that move on Buzan in the end, but he is still trying to make it as these two go side by side as well. Glasgow is going to get that move done on Frost in the end. Frost is not giving up. We've seen that outside line on that turn 2 work so many times today. And once you got the inside for this one, it's very difficult for the driver to hang on round the outside. And Frost is doing a very sterling effort to stay ahead. Warmingham is coming back again at Buzan. They're going to be pretty close down this pit straight once again. Here they are. Warmingham might just be a little bit too far behind to get alongside going into turn 1. He looks to the inside, does Richard Warmingham. He's not an overly aggressive driver. Perhaps is a little bit indecisive when it comes to overtake. Not quite confident enough because he is a very skilled driver. But in terms of solid results, that is what you need. But against Buzan, he's going to need a little bit more spontaneous if he's going to make this move.
Little bit of a mistake there from Buzin. Birmingham not able to profit from that. He was a little bit wide there into the hairpin. But I think if he gets a good run out of the final corner, Birmingham will be able to make a move on Buzin. Let's see.
Yeah, on the last lap, he was a little bit further behind than this, I think. I didn't think he was especially close. I think it was about 0.4 of a second coming out to this final corner. What is it this time? It's 0.3 of a second, so he's a bit closer. We saw on the last lap, he really wasn't in passing range. This time, the slipstream effect is going to help him a bit. He looks to the inside. You can just see it's not a long enough straight to really start making up some time by the end. Oh, Warmingham's all over the place. We've seen Brandon struggle with that traction zone a few times today. And that attack is not going to happen for at least another lap. Oh, and Bowman spun it and nearly made contact, so Warmingham will go through. Bowman just stranded in the middle of the circuit. I was thinking what a fantastic race 3 he was having after a superb race 2. And here was the mistake. Was that just the bumps, Marco?
Yeah, I think he went a little bit too hard on the curb, and this, of course, drivers took evasive action, and it was a bad result for the SIA driver because he lost the position. Luckily, no one made contact with the spinning bomber there. So Birmingham is able to get to P6, and we see now Bomber having to defend from Alex Masse, who goes a little bit hard on the curve as well. He's able to save the car.
Yeah, these two, of course, were fighting at the end of race 2. In the end, it was Bowman managing to hold back Masse, who, yeah, like I said earlier on, has had his issues today. Has also had superb pace. So certainly showing a lot of potential in that car. They are both behind Samuel Buzan, who is a bit the opposite of Alex Masse, not necessarily the fastest, but always seems to find himself in a good position. So it will be a fascinating battle amongst these three drivers, with actually Uneberg closing in just behind as well.
White flag is in the air for Tony Klusterman and all his rivals following closely. One more lap to go, and it seems like Tony will be able to get a good... in all, I think it's going to be a good race day for him. Too bad for the race to crash with Johnny, but apart from that... Oh, look at that! Masse moves Bomber out of the way, NASCAR style, and you know NASCAR is running on the Charlotte Roval course this week. Maybe a little preview of what we're going to see tomorrow in real life.
Yeah, well, the net code there, that was quite unbelievable. We'll have to get a replay of that after this race is finished, because that was quite horrendous. But Klusterman, he won't care one bit. He's going to take a race victory here. He hasn't had one for a few weeks now, but he'll round the final corner at some point, and race 3 of the evening will go the way of Tony Klusterman. And that is just what he wanted. The championship looking as though it's over for the Canadian, but that is still a fantastic result with Johnny Brennan. What a successful day that is for him. Really taking a commanding position in the championship, with Anthony Woodward finishing ahead of Chris Jackson in the Never Quit Racing battle for the podium.
All the other drivers coming to the finishing line. Berben, I think, is going to be one of the final ones to get there. And after that we have the finishing result to what has been a nice round, like usual for the Euro V8s. Well, I have to say, I was expecting a little bit more chaos, Sam, but these guys behaved really well, and we had some great racing all throughout the event. And I think we have the race results for you right now.
Yeah, and it's Tony Klusterman, the third different winner of the evening. So that record still goes on. Yeah, of course, we've had Brandon, we've had Jackson, and we've had Klusterman. Now, the very deserving drivers of a race victory. Johnny Brandon, though, he is the big winner from today. A first, a second, and a second. That's a big points haul. And in terms of pure points, we'll take a commanding lead in the championship. Anthony Woodward, podium for him. I think that might be his first podium of the season. In fact, the first podium I think I've ever seen him claim. So fantastic from Anthony. Well done to him, with Chris Jackson ending up in 4th. Katie Rose Trento, I think that's the best result I've seen for her as well. She really fought well out there. Ended up 12 seconds off the lead, which is not bad whatsoever, considering that she was fighting for the entire race in 5th. Then it's Richard Warmium in 6th, recovering past Samuel Buzan in 7th, who did a good job just picking up plenty of positions. Alex Masse finishes in 8th. Then it's Ole Christian Unberg and Nikolai Bogatai rounding out the top 10. Behind that, it was Boma, Sergei Glaskov, Michael Frost, Tor Anders Bourbon, Jamie Mcknight, who's had an awful day today, and Brenton O'Brien rounding out the field, 16 laps down on the race leader. So Woodward seems to be really happy.
doing donuts on the front stretch. And I think this is his first podium as well, right? Unless I think he was always a very, very a regular competitor. So if he did a complete season in the past, since he's a yellow driver, gentleman driver, let's say, I don't think he has a podium, because otherwise he would be out of this special championship. So I think it's his first podium, and judging by how he's celebrating, it should really be.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be absolutely delighted. Of course, someone that we could ask whether or not that's Anthony Woodward's first ever podium is Tony Kleesman, who has joined us now. And Tony, well done out there. I can't remember the last time you won a race. I'm sure it's a lot more recent than I recall, but that must just be a really satisfying result for you.
I can't remember either. It's been a while, but yeah, it was a good race. Well, a good day, other than the second race. Johnny and I were racing, and I guess there was some sort of net code there, and I went out into the fence. But for the rest, it wasn't too bad. I tried to press Johnny in the first race, and burned up the tires a little bit. So, second place there was good, and first and last race, obviously, you'll take that every time.
Yeah, absolutely, and a really good result actually for Never Quit Racing in that third race. 3 of the top 4 were your team. Was this a particularly strong track for you? Did you feel as though you managed to build a good setup for this event?
Yeah, everybody did a lot of practice this week, and we tried a lot of different setups. So yeah, I think we were pretty solid coming in. That second race was awful hot, though. There was a significant lack of grip.
Yeah, and how was that? Because Jamie Mcknight struggling with that, and he's a Joe. He doesn't usually make mistakes. He did make a mistake. How much of difficulty was it in that second race, and how difficult was it across the entire evening?
Yeah, second race really difficult. It was like driving on ice, actually. So had to have a very light foot and just feed the throttle in and back up the braking points. The first race and the third race, there was a significant more grip in both of those races, and I think you could see that based on some of the times. Johnny was very fast today, and Chris did a good job. I think he had 3 top 4 finishes, so good for him. And Anthony, obviously, very happy with his results. So it's a well-deserved result for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fantastic drive, and I think we might get a word with him later on as well. Going into the next race, I think it's Laguna Seca, if I'm right. That's going to be the normal sprint and feature race. I'm not even sure if this series has ever visited there, but one that you're looking forward to.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Laguna Seca. It's a very unique track. Another slippery track. We have a few on the schedule, so grip will be at a premium there as well. But it's one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, we certainly wish you the best of luck. And before we let you go, any shout-outs you'd like to give?
KSW Painting for sponsoring the league. You guys for obviously broadcasting it. Do a fantastic job. And I'd like to give a shout out to Katie, because she finished 5th there, and while she was in the lead, she was making it really hard for everyone today, and good on her for doing it. So very pleased to see her result.
Thanks, Tony, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Take care, guys.
Okay, next up, I think we'll have Johnny Brandon.
Hey, Tony.
And Johnny, well done out there. You only won one. I say only won one race. You won one race today, but in terms of the championship, a first, a second, and a second, that was a really good day of racing for you.
Yeah, plus got the bonus points in race 1 and race 3 for 0 incursions, so couldn't have gone a lot better. Chuffed with that.
Yeah, I can imagine. And in that first race, of course, Tony has already said how he was trying to put some pressure on you. You didn't really seem to be affected at all by it. Were your pace similar in that first race, or were you mainly just trying to keep it on the track, keep those incidents to a minimum?
I was trying to keep it on the track. Like I say, I had the 0 incidents in race 1 and 3, so that was the gameplay all night, to be honest. But the trouble with this track, I mean, I had a good setup, don't get me wrong, but the second you push and spin your wheels, that's the end of your pace. So you've got to just cruise it, get in a rhythm, and just keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. And the drop off on the lap times and the tyres is huge. But if you just keep it calm, then you minimise that. If you get a little bit excited somewhere and start spinning it up too much, it just punishes you. It costs you a couple of tenths every time you spin the wheels up in ongoing pace, not just for that lap, but for the laps after that as well. So it was all about just being really careful, finesse around here, which went surprisingly well for me, but I needed it.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed each one of those races, including race 3 where you had to make your way up through the field. Considering your championship position, did you approach that any differently, or was it very much just as you'd normally approach a drive like that?
Pretty normal. I mean, I did sit there and think, right, 0 incursions, take my time the first couple of laps, don't get involved in anything silly. But that, to be fair, that's sort of becoming the normal now because it just works. So yeah, and then just kept going. Had a few scary moments in there, getting past a few people. Nearly had a problem, but managed to keep it going. And like I say, 0 incidents again, so pick up the bonus points. So it's perfect, really.
Yeah, it was a perfect night of racing for you. And before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
All I will say, it's a shame what happened with Tony in the second one. I think it was netcode again in the second race. Really unfortunate. So apologies for any part I played in that. I don't know what it looked like on the stream, but
I
think it was just
certainly.
a massive netcode incident, which is a shame. Never like that to happen. But just thanks to you guys for the broadcast. Thanks to everyone that runs the series and all my teammates, everyone at XVR, Sim Racing. It's a great bunch of people. And thoroughly enjoying it.
Thanks, Johnny, and we'll see you on Monday, I guess.
World GT. Yeah.
See ya.
Look forward to it. Cheers, guys. Good night.
We'll also have a word with a very delighted Anthony Woodward, and Ant, you must be absolutely delighted with that. From what I can remember, I can't remember you ever getting a podium before, so well done.
Thank you very much. Best result, yeah. Didn't expect it at all. It's nice to be here. I wasn't going to come here until I achieved something in this league, and it's been 4 seasons, and here I am. So it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that race 3 of the evening, that was just a really well driven. It was difficult because of course you started relatively far up in 4th position, but to get that balance of making the moves on the drivers ahead, and maybe letting Tony and Johnny maybe go by a little bit easier, just to make sure that you secured that podium. You got that balance just right.
Yeah, I don't remember much, to be honest. I'm so happy. But I remember Katie was close. She was having a push on me, and I remember Johnny, we had a tap, and it was the worst possible place on the circuit, and I just thought that was it. But I wanted to try and play the good teammate and just drive my lines, not give Johnny, an easy pass, but he's so quick. I knew he was going to get there, and I didn't want to clash, so yeah, that was tense stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, in those closing stages, you had Chris closing up on you. Do you think he would have been, in the end, he didn't quite catch you in time? Do you think he would have been at all sympathetic, or would he have been absolutely clinical and gone for the move anyway?
Tough to say. I think he would have gone for the move. I think I probably would have made a mistake with Chris behind me. As soon as I saw he'd passed Katie, I just assumed it was any minute it was going to happen. So I was pretty surprised to still have the gap I had a couple of laps later, and then it was only the last lap I thought I might be able to stay here. So
yeah, and in the end, you did extremely well to claim that podium. And overall, for Never Quit Racing, a really good result for you guys today. Do you think you kind of prepared for this race stronger than you have in previous ones this season?
Not particularly, because we prepare pretty hard anyway every race. But this track for myself, I've raced a lot here in previous series that I've run, so I've got good experience of this track. And since joining NQR, I'm learning off these boys. So when I come to a track that I know, I'm finding I can do something sometimes, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you're in the club championship as well. Are you looking for the title there? Do you think Richard is still catchable in that championship?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think, if I'm honest, he'll probably take that. But he's got some speed, Richard. So that's going to be a tough call. But this will help today. Race 2 wasn't great for it, but I'm just over the moon with the podium at last.
Yeah, and you certainly should be. It was a fantastic drive. And before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, if I can. I missed my daughter Evie's bedtime when I raced, so good night, Evie, and hello. And thanks to you boys for the broadcast. I look forward to watching this one because I can't remember much. And just the team, I've improved, and I owe it all to them. There's no other thing for it. So Tony and Chris and the UK guys as well.
Thanks, Sans, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks very much. Nice to meet you at last. Cheers, boys.
So, Marco, I think that pretty much rounds us out for tonight, but looking forward to 2 weeks' time at Laguna Seca. That's going to be a very different circuit. The more conventional sprints and feature races for that one. And yeah, it's not an easy circuit, that. It's a tight, twisty circuit. Again, not easy to overtake, and I think in these V8 Supercars should actually be a very appropriate circuit for them.
Narrow track, a lot of elevation changes, and of course some iconic corners. These cars are going to be a handful, and of course I'm also expecting some very, very slippery track, so it's going to be a fantastic event. Don't miss it, and of course don't forget tomorrow at 7:15 GMT, the BSR Porsche Cup, also on Apex Racing TV. So we're going to have a lot of fun, and yeah, of course during the week all the other, the WGT, the Mazdas, and all the Le Mans series. So we never stop. Of course, I can't wait for Laguna Seca in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that should be an absolutely superb event. And like Marco said, yeah, we've got the Porsches tomorrow evening, World GT Saturday, Mazdas Sunday, Mazdas Tuesday, and then Le Mans series on Wednesday, BSRTC on Thursday as well. And also we've got the team stream again next week. It's back to back weeks, I think, in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix series. Certainly catch that on Saturday as well. But for now, from me, from Marco, and from Sam, we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.